Welcome to the Fantasy Football Brothers channel. My name is Blake, and I'm here with my younger brother Carson. And this is going to be our first mock draft on the channel. We got a few people that volunteered to join us for today. We should have almost everyone here. But in the meantime, we're going to go over the roster construction for this video. We do a somewhat unconventional lineup. One quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, two flex, and 7 bench spots. This is a 10-team league. We don't like tight ends, but of course with flex you can still use them.
Yeah.
Carson, anything to add?
Full PPR and 6-point passing touchdown for QBs. Is that still what we're doing?
Yeah, that's right. No kickers, no defense. Yeah. As in case that wasn't clear, we just like we like offense, and that's kind of how we do it. So, as we're waiting on the last person to join, we'll cut to that when we do, and then we'll randomize the draft and get into it. Okay, looks like everyone's here. So Carson, go ahead and randomize a few times.
I'll randomize 3 times. 1,
all right.
2, 3.
Okay. Carson gets
wow.
the 3 spot. I get the 6, and we'll get into it. Let's go ahead and start it.
All right, here we go. That was quick.
Jonathan Taylor, no surprise there. Christian McCaffrey follows soon after. Again, standard as usual.
And yeah, I'm gonna do. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do Justin Jefferson. I feel like that's where I want to go after Taylor and McCaffrey are gone, so that's who I'm going with.
If you watched our wide receiver rankings video before watching this one, you'll know that Carson and I differ on Jefferson versus Kupp. Kupp goes right after Jefferson there. The computer takes Najee Harris, and now I am on the clock. I'm going to look ahead to see who's going to be around available for me. I do like who is later down the board, so I am going to go with Jamar Chase.
All right.
A lot of running backs taken after me, but that's to be expected with the top 3 wide receivers being taken towards the middle.
And then Mixon finished off the first round with the 10th pick. Let's see the start of the second. What do you think she'll do? This is actually Blake's girlfriend, so what do you think she'll do?
I think she's going to go with another running back. She's in the other room, so I don't necessarily want to influence what she'll do.
Yeah. But she's never done fantasy football, but she's been coached this offseason. She took Devontae Adams, Kelsey, Chubb, Diggs.
I do love Deebo Samuel. I'm a little worried if I don't take a running back now that... You know what? Actually, no. I am going to take Deebo Samuel here.
All right, you were very high on him earlier. Swift being taken is very disappointing for me. I definitely would have taken, or strongly considered taking him at my spot. Definitely not thinking quarterback way too early. Kelsey's kind of early for our format, but it's a bot, so that kind of makes sense for him being taken. I'm just looking at positions so far.
That's a pure algorithm ADP choice there. And the reason I say that is because when you look at season-long projections for Kelsey, he's not projected near as many points as the wide receivers that are still on the board. So you can afford to wait on tight end in this format, just based purely that you don't have to start one. Saquon Barkley goes. Carson, how do you feel about that?
I think that's going to let me take the risk on Kamara because, a lot of news on him not serving any suspension until the 2023 season. But if I didn't really want to deal with that with my RB1, because usually it's nice to have him as the RB2 because of that, I probably would have taken Saquon. But now that Saquon's gone, I feel like I don't want to pass up Kamara, personally. And obviously a lot could change between now and even the start of the NFL season on his outlook. But if it wasn't for the suspension, we've said he's probably RB3. But I think I'm going to gamble here. And yeah, I'll do it.
I don't think it's all that much of a gamble, so I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, I hope not. It would. That's a phenomenal starting 2 to have, assuming Kamara plays the entire season.
Absolutely. Carson, would you rather take CeeDee Lamb or Mike Evans?
as we've talked about in wide receiver tier list, I think Mike Evans is clear. ADP, for whatever reason, is not telling the same story, but I think we both agree Mike Evans would be ahead of CeeDee Lamb just because of touchdown production, quarterback play, and also CeeDee Lamb should have shined more than he did last year, so I don't know how confident I am this year. And Mike Evans is there for me, but I think I'm going to probably take a running back at this stage because I feel really good with Justin Jefferson being there at my wide receiver 1 slot, which means I'm probably going to take your guy, Leonard Fournette. Let me just make sure before I pull the trigger on that. But yeah, I'm going to take Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, no guarantee that he was going to make it through 2 more people after you, but I certainly would have been happy to take him at my spot.
Yeah, sorry about that. And between him and Javonte, I think you clearly would pick Fournette, but if they were both there for me, I probably would have thought a little bit longer on that.
Yeah, to me,
but I don't know.
The difference. So if Javonte Williams takes the whole running back role, I think he could end up being more valuable than Fournette. But going into the season, Fournette has a safer season-long projection as the clear number 1.
And since I have any level of concern of Kamara's late suspension, I think, I don't know, maybe Fournette's a safer pick, but...
So Mike Evans actually fell all the way to me. That's really interesting. The problem is that if I pass up on a running back at this point, it's going to be a little sketchy. So I am going to pass up on that value, which I hate, but I need to get a running back at this point. So I'm going with James Conner.
And I figured you'd take James Conner because I do agree that it kind of plummets after him as far as being okay with the guy being your RB1.
Mm-hmm. You know, Carson, depending on how these next 3 picks go after her, I'm strongly considering taking T. Higgins if he falls to me.
Oh, with Jamar Chase. See, yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting.
I mean,
because value-wise, I do not blame you, but...
And we talked about in our wide receiver ranking, that's a good choice. I think she may have heard me.
Yep.
I'm still happy with Keenan Allen here, obviously, and I'm looking ahead to see what running backs will fall after this, just because I want to be mindful of that. And honestly, it's tough to pass up on... It's really tough to pass up on Keenan Allen here. I just feel like it's risky. I mean, a lot of people ahead of me have taken 2 running backs already. So, for the sake of risking it, I'm going to take Keenan Allen. We start a lot of wide receivers potentially in our lineup, and I'm going to roll the dice on one of those running backs remaining falling back to me on the next pick.
Every single bot has taken a tight end so far, so that is interesting. Yeah. Oh my! He took Pittman. He took my boy.
I see that. Yep.
Oh, that hurts me. That really, really hurts me. And you'll see in our tier list video how much that probably hurts me because I'm very high on Michael Pittman going into this year. So I'm really disappointed about that. I thought if you passed on Keenan, I was 100% getting Pittman. And since you took Keenan, he thought Pittman was the best. And I would say he was right, unfortunately, in my opinion. Oh, that stinks. Okay, well, I do like the look of Breece Hall and Travis Etienne, but I don't know if I really want to be taking the 3rd running back right now. Maybe if one of them come back around to me for my 5th round pick, I'll be enticed to. But I think I got to focus on wide receiver. And for me, it's difficult. Definitely not Terry McLaurin. It's about how I feel with Deontay or DJ Moore. I'm not really thinking about Waddle too much. It's probably Deontay or DJ Moore. And I think I'm going to go DJ Moore. Okay. So I'll go ahead and lock that in. But it's close between those two, and it hurts me because I do really like Deontay as a fantasy player. I feel like they're both going to finish very close, so hopefully that pick doesn't come back to hurt me. You know, I mean, I'm not going to stay with this team. Obviously, it's a mock draft, but mock draft. Yep. In that situation, I think that they are very comparable players, but I just feel better about DJ Moore's situation. Even though it's Baker Mayfield, I still feel better about him over Trubisky or Pickett. and Moore's got fewer receivers to compete with target share. So I think that's what sways me there.
Yeah. I was just going to ask if you were surprised to see David Montgomery falling this far.
I mean, a little bit. It is pretty late, but he's never someone I target in drafts. So, like, I'm not thinking about him really right here. Like, I'm thinking about ETN if I'm taking a running back, and if not, I'm thinking of Waddle. So, most likely, or Sutton, but probably Waddle. This is tough because I do like the value of wide receivers later on. Like in that Amon-Ra, Brandon Cooks, Allen Robinson sort of range. So I think for that reason, I'm going to be more inclined to take a running back here because after ETN, I don't really like any of these guys, and I'd like to have a third guy. So, I mean, I'll look at Montgomery and consider it, but I think I'm going to go for ETN, which I'm not excited about the fact that he's got the same buy as Fournette, but whatever is kind of how I'm feeling at this point.
Okay. Well, it's not a guarantee he would have made it to me, but that definitely hurts my feelings a little bit. And
then Montgomery.
And now Montgomery's gone, and so I'm kind of picking among not great options at this point. So I think that I'm just going to continue and take wide receiver talent. So
yeah, I think at this point, you got to play the value game at this point. I agree with that.
Okay. So I'm nervous about Antonio Gibson. I think it's going to be a bit of a committee there. So I'm actually going to go with J.K. Dobbins here. And I don't love that pick, but it's kind of just like if I continued waiting further, it could get really ugly. So that's my thought process there.
Yeah, that's fair. And someone who's coming back from injury, you hope that he can overperform. And that his ADP is too low right now. So I think that's definitely a good running back to take a shot on at this stage. Because I don't want Gibson at all. I don't want CEH. I don't really want to be forced to play A.J. Dillon every week.
Yeah.
And now I'm almost certainly, I'm going to go wide receiver. It's tempting. Michael Thomas is looking at me, but it's weird to go for him and Kamara, especially with them both having different question marks. So I don't think I want to double up on them. I think I'm definitely going to take Allen Robinson. Don't like that he has the same buy as Justin Jefferson. But, I'm thinking a little bit about Amon-Ra, St. Brown, but I feel better about Robinson being my wide receiver 3 personally. So
I think there's a good chance that St. Brown is still there on the turn. So
it is possible.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, if Amon-Ra falls to me, and he won't, there you go. I was going to say 100% take him, but he did not fall to me. Takes Gibson.
Yeah, he didn't make the decision easy for you.
No, but I think now just talking about it, which is why we do this, I just feel the best taking a quarterback here. Yeah, I'm going to take Kyler Murray. So I've almost filled my starting lineup, which is not usually necessarily how you have to do it.
No, I would argue the opposite. You really should be
most of the time,
drafting
it's not
for
how
value.
we do it. It just kind of worked out with how it happens. If I ever end up doing that, it's like quarterback last out of that line. But yeah, I like Kyler Murray whenever I can get him and he's like the best available quarterback. A lot of the time he gets taken right before me. And then I end up with
you said best available. Has Tom Brady been drafted already?
best available according to ADP.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. I need to clarify that, or it could lead to a lot of confusion.
I was confused. I'm sure others were as well.
You would draft Brady ahead of everyone, but probably Herbert, Mahomes, Allen. But you don't do that because of ADP necessarily.
Well, no, my rankings I have him 5th, so I like Lamar. Okay. I like Lamar's upside.
Okay.
In addition to the 3 that you mentioned.
Fair enough.
All right. So I am a little inclined. So I'm going to look ahead. I like the wide receivers that'll be available or projected to be available to me next pick. Next pick. That's something I love about Sleeper is that they project your upcoming draft pick. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and shore up my third running back just because I have some question marks at running back otherwise. And I think A.J. Dillon will be a solid option this season.
Yeah, I like that. I like him much more as your third running back. I think between Dobbins and Dillon, I think hopefully you can have like a pretty safe RB2 in your lineup. So
yeah, it might just be a question of picking the right one given the
that's
week.
true. That is true.
And that could be frustrating, but
yes,
I feel better having options than not.
Yeah, for sure. And with your wide receivers already, you could probably live with that being your weakness, is picking the right one for the running backs.
I'm okay with taking Drake London here. I think he has a lot of upside, being the number one in Atlanta, and so I'm going with
I was really hoping you'd go Brady or something because I was wanting Drake London.
No, I'm waiting on quarterback, buddy.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, if you sort by flex, you see so many tight ends, but it's just because of our roster construction.
Well, and even when you filter by all, the ADP of these tight ends here, I mean, Darren Waller as ADP 40.8 it's just so high in this format that it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Projected 196 fantasy points. When you scroll down to the next available wide receiver, it's Devonta Smith, and they are projected the exact same amount of points. So
yeah, so at this time, I'm actually
Waller's
considering
okay to go.
Darren Waller.
Yeah,
I'm actually
agreed.
considering Waller. So that's funny timing because this almost never happens. But there's no need for a third running back or fourth running back rather for me right now. And I like Darren Waller more than all of these wide receivers. So this almost never happens, but here we go.
I mean, yeah, I agree with your thought process there. It's a great choice.
Yeah. So Waller would always have to be a flex, but having two flexes is, I mean, you got the room for it, so it's fine.
And thinking about this, you would probably never see Waller fall all the way to the round 8 in a league that requires tight ends.
Yeah, I think what allowed that to happen is that all of the computers had taken a tight end, and then no one else was even really looking at him.
Which is interesting because Waller is pretty high in my ranks, but as I see who the other four were taken, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
An argument can be made for Waller being ahead of Pitts, I think, this season, but Pitts is really high in ADP. So
yeah, he really is. He was taken before Kittle. You know, there's not like a guy I hope falls to me, so I'm just trying to figure out where I even want to go. All right, Brady.
Good choice. Best choice.
I'm almost thinking like Russell Wilson, but like I don't want to do that with Kyler. But I don't like any of these other options.
So I was just thinking where your thoughts were with drafting a second quarterback. I'm of the mindset that if I draft my one quarterback and I feel really confident with that player, I'm just going to ride with them for the whole draft.
That is almost always how I feel, but I'm considering it.
Well, it's the Denver fan in you.
It is. It is. Like, tight ends are no longer good value. Waller was the last one at that spot that was good. I don't really like Devonta Smith, as we've talked about. I don't like him being the wide receiver 2 in that offense. I don't like Lockett. Ayuk, it's like, Then you got some rookies. And I feel like Kirk is a reach for sure at this point. I do only have 3 wide receivers. This has been I do have Waller, though, so I got to remember that. I can think of him as my fourth wide receiver.
4 pass catchers.
Yeah, I really don't feel like reaching. I think I'm going to take Wilson, and I'm very surprised. I never do anything like this. You're catching me on a weird draft, but maybe it's just drafting with people, which is really changing things. Because it's hard. I usually always go, if I get a good quarterback like a Kyler Murray, I would not go for a second quarterback that I feel like would be, potentially another QB1. But I don't really... I like Chase Edmonds, but I'm not reaching for him. I like Kirk a little bit, but I'm definitely not reaching for him. Like, I don't like any of the guys ahead of him.
Is Edmonds projected to be available to you next pick?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I already have 3 running backs too, so like I don't even need to go for that necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that made me feel weird, but
Okay.
I don't regret it. How about that?
Okay, sure. Everyone ahead of me has a quarterback already. And I think for the sake of depth, I'm going to take a running back here. And I think I'm going to go with... I think Devin Singletary in PPR, even though the addition of James Cook makes you nervous. I think Singletary, he's in a great offense. I'm considering between him and Rashad Penny, who I think is really only a matter of time before he loses touches to Ken Walker, and that's already a bad offense to begin with, so I'm going to go with Singletary.
Yeah, I like that. He ended the season very strongly, as we've talked about before.
So I was actually considering taking James Cook just so I could have that insurance policy there, in case Cook takes the role from Singletary and pass catching options. It's tough to say at this point. So I would have considered that if it had fallen to me. That being said, I'm looking now at the wide receivers and running backs that are left available to me, and I think I'm going to take a flyer. The question is, who would I rather have between Olave and Garrett Wilson? So I'm thinking, based on projections, Olave's projected 12 more points. That's not really a significant factor in this scenario. I do feel like in terms of which quarterback I like more, it's definitely Olave. And that's... I think that's who I'm going to end up going with. So I'm going to take Chris Olave here.
Yeah, I would, between him and Wilson, I'd probably favor Olave. But it is close. They were college teammates,
if
right?
it's not telling, Garrett Wilson goes immediately after. So
yeah, that too. And I believe Olave and Garrett Wilson were college teammates, if I'm not mistaken, at Ohio State.
That's correct.
So
Ohio
it's
State.
just, it's also, pardon me. It's also funny that they're going back-to-back in drafts, too. Oh, he took Gordon. All right.
Now, did he have Javonte?
He didn't. I was just checking that, actually.
Yeah, no. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I think there's limited upside with Gordon unless Javonte gets hurt. But there's not a ton of depth at running back at this stage in the draft. We are in the 10th round after all.
Yeah, for me...
Dak Prescott's staring you in the eyes right now. So
no.
Pick me.
No, he's not. I think I am going to go Sky Moore. I almost wanted to try and play the game where I could get both him and Ramondre Stevenson, but I think that I know our father is at Team 1, and I think he would like Sky Moore, so I don't think he'd get back to me with his 2 picks.
Okay, and that's an important thing to note. Knowing how your league mates draft is part of the draft strategy. So
Yep.
If you're entering the league for the very first year, you're at a bit of a disadvantage there, unless you're all new and then it's free-for-all. But it is important to know what players other teams like if you're drafting around them or if they are picking ahead of you. So Team 2 taking Dak Prescott at the end of the 10th round, I think is pretty good value.
That is good. I think that's great value. Yeah,
you feel good about that. And so it's looking likely that I'll be taking a quarterback with my next pick.
You might end up with that Trey Lance QB1, but I think that's not your preference.
It's not my preference, but in that scenario, I would be willing to take a second quarterback as an insurance policy because that is an example of a quarterback that if is my QB1 drafted, I don't feel 100% certain that I want to ride that.
Yeah, agreed. Not much thinking for me to do with how much I was talking about it. I guess I'll take Ramondre Stevenson here.
Yeah, works out.
Oh, tight end.
Couple tight ends taken. So that's the second tight end from Team 4. I wouldn't do that, but that's their prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, I see they're definitely falling later than they would in drafts that make you draft a tight end because of the roster spot. Like Hawkinson in the 9th, Goddard in the 11th. I mean, I get it, but it's probably you got to look at projections, and I'm sure they're probably lower than some wide receivers, but
Yeah, so picking here between, because I know that teams 7, 8, and 9 will inevitably take a second quarterback. I don't want to miss out on either Rodgers or Stafford. And given the elbow concerns with Stafford, in addition to the late bye week for Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to give the edge to Rodgers. If I have Aaron Rodgers for the first 13 weeks of the season, I feel very confident that I'll be in a good position to drop a player and pick up his replacement week 14.
yeah, I think that's smart. And Stafford was instantly taken after you, and then Knox, and then Claypool.
And I'm sure after Team 10's picks that 9 and 8 will each scoop up a quarterback. That's my prediction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably a good prediction. They do like taking those second quarterbacks, and they were the first two to take quarterbacks.
Yeah. And they really don't need to. If you have Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, there's no one on a given week other than their bye weeks that you're going to be like, oh yeah, this guy's a much better option. So just the idea of drafting two quarterbacks like that, it's just not advisable. You should be focusing on getting depth at your other positions that have more injury risk and can offer more upside.
Yeah. Yeah.
My prediction was off. That's okay though. So now I'm looking at my team, and I have 4 running backs, 4 that I feel pretty good about. I'm looking at my wide receivers. I've got 6 wide receivers. I feel good about all of those. And now I'm just kind of looking at upside here in rounds 12 through 15. So Kadarius Toney is interesting. I want to see who ended up with Dalvin Cook, because I'm considering
Team 9. Yeah.
So round 12 is around the time that Alexander Madison goes in these drafts. For me, I think he offers tremendous upside if anything happens to Dalvin, and every season in his career something has happened to Dalvin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the chance that Dalvin Cook misses time, and I don't think that's a huge gamble. And if he does, Alexander Madison will be an instant RB1 on my team.
Yeah, I like the logic there. If you're not loving any of the other people, and that's around the time for Madison, I think that's a smart pick.
Yeah, I just feel good about my wide receiver depth especially, and so it's mostly wide receivers on the board at this pick. I just think it makes sense. So what are you thinking for your upcoming pick?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide what I'm thinking. Definitely not a quarterback. I mean, I know James Robinson gives me the insurance of the Jacksonville backfield, but I really don't know if I want to play that game. I think I feel pretty good about ETN.
I feel like you wanted to play that game as soon as you took ETN.
I know what you mean. I just don't know if I really want to just start taking handcuffs, because I really believe that ETN's going to take over the offense. I'm probably going to do it though, because I don't love any of the wide receivers here. George Pickens is interesting, but I think his ADP is too high. People are getting probably too hype at this point about his preseason and all that. I like some wide receivers a little bit further down more. And there's a thought that I want to go with Dameon Pierce, but I think I'm just going to be safer and take James Robinson, because that ensures that I have a third running back behind Fournette and Kamara, whoever ends up. Well, I have no doubt that ETN's going to take over, but then I just have a handcuff that is proven to be reliable when he has that lead role.
I think, James Robinson's a very talented player. I think it was unfortunate what happened with him last season under the previous coaching staff, and obviously the late injury hurts. But yeah, I think he's a talented back and someone that, if given the opportunity, can deliver in fantasy.
Yeah.
10 seconds left for Team 2. What are you going to do? Julio Jones.
Julio. Stretch.
That's a reach, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. we talked about this in our wide receiver rankings video. Julio Jones and Russell Gage. Russell Gage went just a few picks before Julio, looking at the board here. But they're both kind of going to be, in my estimation, splitting time for the wide receiver 3 role. And with Julio Jones' injury history, I just don't feel confident taking him, especially at this stage in the draft. I feel like Albert Aquabenon is just screaming your name, Carson.
2 tight ends. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you took 2 quarterbacks. Just be like the bots.
I'll be just like the bots.
Take that for what you will.
No. Albert Aquabenon. All right, so you've learned. Oh, he took NFL young boy. He picked Pickens. Okay. Yeah. I mean, as much as I like to pair up the Denver boys and Alberto, they might just end up being paired up on my bench on a lot of weeks. So, don't know how great I feel about that. I mean, we just talked about Dameon Pierce. You know, I mean, I could get Rachaad White, get another handcuff for Fournette, but I don't think I really want to be playing that game necessarily. But I don't love any of these wide receivers, so it's kind of an awkward spot. But
Well, I would suggest reaching on one of the wide receivers you don't think will fall to you that you like. If that's how you feel.
Yeah. It's going to be between Michael Gallup and Rondale Moore for me.
Mm-hmm. Those are both 2 high upside players, I think.
Yeah.
I'll let you make your choice, and then I'll give more insight.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go Michael Gallup, and I'll explain real quick, and might be your same reasoning. So Rondale Moore could have a better start to the season, but Gallup will probably have a stronger end. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what swayed me.
Yeah, that's my thought exactly.
Yeah.
Through the first 6 weeks, I feel good having Rondale Moore and Marquise Brown, especially in like DFS, but in terms of season-long football, that wide receiver core is going to become very crowded once Hopkins returns, and it kind of lowers the value overall for all the players involved.
Yeah. And there goes
Rondale Moore goes immediately after. That's a good selection based on the reasons we just gave. And for me, I'm totally comfortable taking Dameon Pierce here. I was expecting you to pick him, but especially since my team is kind of constructed around wide receiver depth to begin with, I feel good about potentially, like you said, having a running back 1, or as you say, a lead back with my now 6th running back taken, I think.
Oh, that's very unlike you. Or 5th. Oh no, 6th. Yeah, that's very unlike you.
6. Well, yeah. I mean, I waited on getting J.K. Dobbins as my running back 2 in the 6th round. So I'm kind of playing catch up and throwing some darts to see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair because you gotta just try and find that depth because you have such stacked wide receivers that you have the ability to do that.
It's about kind of seeing where the value is and drafting based on value. So for me, prioritizing high-end, top 12 wide receivers is very enticing when I'm kind of towards the middle or latter half of the first round.
Yeah. We're entering the final 2 rounds of the draft. I have 2 quarterbacks.
Soon to be 2 tight ends.
No. 5 running backs, 5 wide receivers, and a tight end.
Okay. I'm going to leave Albert Aquabenon on the board for you, just to tempt you. And I'm looking for upside here. So obviously I'm picking between Jameson Williams and Jahan Dotson here. It's kind of up in the air regarding how long Jameson Williams will miss this season. And, I mean, I guess there's an off chance that he doesn't play at all. I think that the likelihood of that happening is very slim. But just for that reason, I'm going to take the guy that's going to project to be there all year long, and that's Jahan Dotson.
Mm-hmm. Team 5 takes me having to think about Rachaad White at all, although I probably wasn't going to go with it, but
yeah,
doesn't force me to think about it. My God, I'm tempted. I'm tempted with Alberto. I can't believe I could be taking 2 tight ends. I cannot believe it. Definitely not taking a quarterback. I'm going to take Mark Ingram with one of these 2 picks. I assume I'd be able to take him with my next one, so I'm not going to do that. And I mean, Jamison Williams is the thought, but I think what's probably going to make me go to Albert O is the fact that I already have a wide receiver that could be missing time at the start of the season with Michael Gallup. So I don't really want to have to deal with both of them. And oh my god, it's happening. I mean, Romeo Dubs is in consideration. And you know what? I probably actually am going to go Romeo Dubs now that I think about it. Yeah, that's why we're here. We take up all the time. Yeah, I'll take a shot.
Okay, so that was a lot of build-up for nothing.
Yep, pretty much.
You could have, I think you could have safely taken Dobbs with your last pick, but I didn't want to dissuade you from being a bot and taking 2 tight ends.
Well, I'm going to take Ingram, assuming no one else takes him. So, I probably can take them with... Wow, never mind. Yeah, he can have him.
Yeah, he can have him. So I'm actually kind of not interested in handcuffing Kamara with Ingram if I draft Kamara, based solely on the fact that Ingram he's very old.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a lot of upside if he takes... I mean, the reality is that they're going to use a committee if Kamara misses time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same reason why I'm not all that interested in Isaiah Spiller, who Team 2 took in round 11. Just because if Eckler misses time, it's going to be a committee behind him. There's not just a number 1 guy ready to take the role if the lead misses time.
And Team 2 takes Jamison Williams, so
I think
they must be listening
at
on.
This point.
It has to be.
I think it's obvious what you have to do.
Yeah. It is. It's happening. I mean, there's a thought about Jalen Tolbert, but like, just for the value that he has when Gallup's gone, but I don't really think it's gonna be worth starting. I think it's more of like you hope that he can get integrated in the offense, and then once Gallup's back, I'm not really gonna be wanting to use both of them, so not going there. 2 tight ends. Link them up with my boy.
Yep.
My 2 Broncos. Let's ride.
Incoming bot pick. Let's go. No, I mean, I don't disagree. There is, I mean, in terms of projections left on the board, there are some good running backs, but like Kenneth Gainwell. But I think, so DJ Chark is another player that I'm interested in late in drafts. Do I dare take a 7th running back?
Who are you thinking? J.D. McKissick?
No, I'm thinking Khalil Herbert.
Okay.
Because there are reports coming out that Chicago wants to get him more involved in the offense. I think there's definitely some upside there. And again, it's just kind of more depth at my kind of shaky running back position. So I actually am going to go Herbert.
There you go. Jamal Williams.
All right. So let's go ahead and pull up the big board here.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you stuck around to the end to see this outro. And we'll be having more content coming out soon. On Monday, we'll have our tight end rankings video. That'll be a much shorter one compared to our previous 2. And more stuff to look forward to in the future after that. Thanks, guys.
Peace out.